Good morning. In a poem he dedicated to the victims of September 11th and their survivors, former Poet Laureate of the United States, Billy Collins, recalls the names of the citizens, workers, mothers, and fathers who lost their lives on that terrible day. He assures us that the victims' names will be forever remembered, saying that they are written in the pale sky and painted on the ceiling of the night. No matter our bearing in the sky, or whether it's day or night when we fly, the members of the Airline Pilots Association will never forget the family members, friends, and colleagues who fell that September day 17 years ago. It is an honor to welcome you here today. Our gathering includes our staff, our colleagues from across the airline industry, and ALPA pilots, some of whom are here this week to conduct our union's work as part of the Executive Council, Executive Board, and Canada Board meetings. Your presence today makes clear our collective determination to remember the names of each person we lost and to never forget their legacy. We're also pleased that pilots from American Airlines and representatives of the Association of Flight Attendants, CWA, and the Association of Professional Flight Attendants are here today, as well as former ALPA national officers. Thank you. The Remembrance Gardens where we stand is graced with mementos that call to mind the names of those we've lost. The mementos also give us solace and strength. The garden surrounding us contains a 10-ton center stone from a quarry in western Pennsylvania. It is split to represent the terrible breaks that the 9/11 attacks created in families, in friendships, in communities, and in our industry. The 2 century stones at the entrance came from a quarry just a few miles from the field in Shanksville, where United Airlines Flight 93 went down. This garden also includes a portion of the outer wall from the Pentagon and 2 sections of steel I-beams from the World Trade Center site. This garden, which was dedicated on September 11, 2006, the 5th anniversary of the attacks, provides a peaceful space for all of us to come together as one. The names of our states, our provinces, our cultures, and our languages may differ, but this day is an opportunity for unity in its elemental form. By coming together, we are acting to truly make certain the future is safer and more secure. This is our timeless eulogy to our fallen family, friends, and colleagues. But we can only achieve this tribute through the collective strength of airline pilots working together in one name and with one voice. Time and again, the strength of this principle has been borne out. Our more than 60,000 ALPA members have worked together with others across our industry to advance safety and security for our passengers, our cargo, crews, and yes, the communities. Because of this work, we've improved the Federal Flight Deck Officer Program, and we've enhanced the Known Crew Member Program. We're continuing our determined effort to put in place hardened cockpit doors on both passenger and cargo aircraft, and we're getting close to real progress on mandating the installation of secondary cockpit barriers. These actions all result from our coming together in the name of advancing our safety, security, pilot assistance, and jump seat work. It was about this time 17 years ago, 8:46 a.m., that hijackers flew American Airlines Flight 11 into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City. Terrorists flying United Airlines Flight 175 hit the South Tower 17 minutes later. At 9:37 a.m., hijackers flying American Airlines Flight 77 struck the Pentagon in Arlington County, Virginia. And at 10:03 a.m., United Airlines Flight 93 crashed into a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. We witnessed the senseless death of not only the passengers and crew members on board, but of the courageous first responders and those victims who were simply going about their daily lives. Mothers, fathers, sons, daughters, husbands, wives, and loved ones died. But their legacy invites us to take some meaning from that cruel, cruel day. At this time, I would like to invite United Airlines Captain Bob Fox to say a few words. Captain Fox is the designee for United Master Executive Council Chairman Captain Todd Insler, who is attending the Ground Zero ceremony today. Bob.
Good morning, everyone. For all Americans, for all time, the phrase 9/11 will invoke a special meaning, a memory of a moment in our history when the world as we knew it changed forever. It is fitting that every year on September 11th, Americans join together to honor the memory of more than 3,000 people that died that day. And it is especially fitting that we observe a moment of silence as a tribute to our Union brothers and sisters whose lives were cut short flying the line. But these solemn ceremonies on September 11th will always be more than a remembrance of the past, more than a tribute to the lives lost. These ceremonies are today and will always be a remembrance and a tribute to those that survived and those that have flown west. For me, I was based in New York and had recently flown trips with Vic Saraceni and Jason Dahl. Both outstanding pilots, great captains, and loving husbands and fathers. More recently, I've had the pleasure to work alongside Ellen Saraceni, who is leading the charge to further ensure this horrific act of terror never happens again. Today, we also remember, once again, how ordinary human beings living ordinary lives reacted with extraordinary heroism when, without warning in an instant, they were thrown face to face with the most fundamental questions of human existence. On September 11th, 2001, we saw people choose duty in the face of death. As passengers and flight crew on United Flight 93 over Pennsylvania refused to allow the hijackers to succeed. We saw humanity at its finest in a small Canadian community in Gander, Newfoundland, who fed, nurtured, and cared for 6,700 people after 38 aircraft diverted to their island. We witnessed loyalty to our friends overwhelm any sense of danger as the New York City firefighters searched tirelessly for their own. And we saw courage as our fellow pilots and flight attendants managed through the unknown and went back to work, putting together a shaken air transportation system that provides strength, prosperity, and well-being to our country. Finally, these ceremonies today and will always be a remembrance of the dangers our professionally trained crews face every day. Over the last 17 years, we have seen many improvements in security. However, a great deal of work remains to ensure all cockpits and aircraft are secure from future acts of terror. We must ensure Congress enacts legislation to mandate the installation of secondary barriers on passenger aircraft. And it is crucial we continue to advocate for one level of security for our fellow cargo pilots. So today, as we think back on the events of 9/11, our sorrow over the loss of so many good people, should be tempered by the example shown by those who have persevered. Those who wake up every day, working together, managing through the obstacles in an effort to make this world a safer place. As time goes on, we grow, we get stronger, we heal, and we never forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Fox. Now, I'd like to invite Jody Crecise from ALPA's Communications Department to lead us in singing Amazing Grace.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious is that grace appeared the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace hath brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home.
Thank you, Jody. That's beautiful. At this time, I'd like to ask Ron Reinflesch from ALPA's Representation Department to share a few words of reflection with us. Rhino?
Good morning and happy Patriot Day. As we gather in this beautiful Remembrance Garden, please take a moment to ask yourself the same question we ask each other every year. Where were you on 9/11? On September 11, 2001, there were 311 million people in the United States, and on that horrific day, close to 3,000 of our fellow Americans were taken from us. Today, the United States population is over 325 million, so we must never forget to remind those born after 9/11 how the world changed that day. We should share with them the horror and shock we experienced that day when airplanes flew into buildings and people perished. We should remember our fear and anger, our confusion, and the sense of threat. But we should also remember how we looked with honor on acts of courage by ordinary people who sacrificed themselves to prevent further death and destruction, and the great hospitality and goodwill shown by our friends in Canada. We all know hatred was the main reason we all had to suffer that day, but it is our love and respect for each other that has made us all stronger. So let's take a moment to show that love and respect we have for each other by turning to those next to you and offer a smile, a handshake, or a hug. Let me share a short prayer with you. God, we shed our tears in a common bond of grief for those we loved and lost. We journeyed through a dark valley, but your light has led us to a place of hope. You have turned our grief into determination. We are resolved to do what is good and right and just. Help us to remember what it means to be Americans, a people endowed with abundant blessings. Help us to cherish the freedoms we enjoy and inspire us to stand with courage, united as one nation in the midst of our adversity. Help us to continue to work for a world free from every form of hatred, violence, and ignorance. And may terrorism, in all its forms, disappear from the face of the earth. Amen. We must never forget what happened on that dreadful day 17 years ago, but we must believe that good will always win over evil. So I leave you with 3 words to remember today: encourage, believe, and smile.
Great job, Ron. Great job. Thank you, Ron. I would now like to ask Captain Joe DePete, ALPA's first Vice President, to help us honor our crew members and employees who were lost in the attacks. The names we vow to never forget. United Airlines Flight 93, Captain Jason Dahl. First Officer Leroy Homer Jr. Flight Attendant Lorraine Bay. Flight Attendant Sandra Bradshaw. Flight Attendant Wanda Green. Flight Attendant C.C. Lyles. Flight Attendant Deborah Welsh. United Airlines Flight 175, Captain Victor Saracini. First Officer Michael Horrocks. Flight Attendant Robert Fangman. Flight Attendant Amy Jarrett. Flight Attendant Amy King. Flight Attendant Catherine Labori. Flight Attendant Alfred Machon. Flight Attendant Michael Tarot. Flight Attendant Alicia Titus. Customer Service Representative Marianne McFarland. Customer Service Representative Jesus Sanchez. American Airlines Flight 11, Captain John Onagowski. First Officer Thomas McGinnis. Flight Attendant Barbara Arestigui. Flight Attendant Jeffrey Coleman. Flight Attendant Sarah Lowe. Flight Attendant Karen Martin. Flight Attendant Kathleen Nicosia. Flight Attendant Betty Ong. Flight Attendant Jean Roger. Flight Attendant Diane Snyder. Flight Attendant Madeline Sweeney. American Airlines Flight 77, Captain Charles Burlingame. First Officer David Charlevoix. Flight Attendant Michelle Heidenberger. Flight Attendant Jennifer Lewis. Flight Attendant Kenneth Lewis. Flight Attendant Renee May. Thank you, Joe. At this time, I invite Jody Crescice to lead us in singing America the Beautiful, while Captain Bill Coet, ALPA Vice President, Administration Secretary, and Captain Randy Helling, ALPA Vice President, Finance Treasurer, place a wreath before the garden stones.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties above the fruited plains. America, America, God shed us on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea.
On behalf of the members and staff of the Airline Pilots Association International, I'd like to thank you all for joining us to honor our fallen colleagues and all those who lost their lives 17 years ago this day.